I placed my pre-order. What is good, YouTube? It's that one camera guy back at it again with another video. In this episode, I'm going to share with you my thoughts on the Sony A9. Let's jump into it. First of all, I am away from home. I'm currently in San Diego attending a conference. I got a little bit of downtime and wanted to go ahead and share my thoughts with the A9 because I've just been so busy. And this is all free scripted. I don't have a script for me, so I'm just going to speak my mind on the entire matter. So the Sony A9 dropped. I made my prediction video, which you can find pop up over here, and I talked about some of the things I expected out of this camera. So now that the actual camera is out, I wanted to go ahead and kind of mention the things I predicted and also the things that they released and also my general thoughts on the camera. And obviously from the teaser that I gave you, I am going to get the camera, but with some minor things. I could cancel the order still just in case, so my mind changes on it. So let's go ahead and talk about the actual sensor on the camera. 24 megapixels. I was already expecting a smaller megapixel camera. I wasn't expecting 42 megapixels at all. And quite frankly, I'm happy with 24 megapixels. I'm typically a sports shooter, event shooter, that's kind of my arena. And as far as the size, 24 is perfect. I'd rather not deal with massive file sizes. And also, if I don't sell my Sony A7R II, I have a camera that does high megapixels, and I can always pick up my A7R II and shoot some of that. The next topic is frames per second. Yes, this is going to be a sports camera, and again, I'm very happy with that information. But one big thing is that it's going to be shooting 20 frames per second with full autofocus. Here's what's really cool. I said they were going to do 16 because I wanted to see them beat Canon, but they just went above and beyond and went with a solid 20 frames per second, and they are just going to shatter the competition, in my honest opinion. With the DSLRs, there is that light blackout that happens when you're taking pictures, and even with the Sony Alpha 6500, there is a little bit of a blip and slowdown when you're shooting at 11 frames per second. And so this camera is really kind of like, man, they are just going for the jugular on the D5 and the 1DX Mark II and basically telling them, hey, we are starting to encroach on your territory. So that's what I'm seeing. All right, the next one is memory cards. Now, memory cards wasn't really a big issue for me. I've shot with one memory card, but I'm very happy that they took the advice that I gave them, even though they already made the camera, is to use UHS-2 and not jump to QXD or XQD, which is a much more expensive format. And I really like what they went with, and my prediction was right, but they only put one. So they have one normal SD slot and one that's UHS-2, which is fine by me. So you have one slot that's very high speed, high output. You can shoot with that buffer and you'll be fine. So very happy with what they did, and it will appease a lot of people who are complaining and are very, very upset. The size of the camera. I thought they were going to make a slightly bigger camera. They decided to opt for a regular sized A7 series type style, which I guess, I get why they did that. And the fact that they still offer the battery grip and everything gives the user the option to change the camera out when they need to. So it doesn't really bother me. I know the camera is slightly thicker, I think. Just, I guess, because of the mechanics inside it, the stuff that's inside the camera. So hopefully that's not going to be an issue. And we'll see if I get the battery grip. More than likely I will, but probably a little later. There's a lot of talk and chatter now because this camera did not get the 4K 60p. And there's something I was predicting. And it's kind of a shame that the camera didn't get that particular video update to make it just even more competitive with the Canon 1DX Mark II and basically just tell Canon, hey, we're here, we are competing with you. But they chose not to, so it was a very interesting decision. Maybe it was just something hardware-wise the camera just couldn't do, but there is a really good possibility, this again my opinion, that Sony is just waiting to release an A9R or their A7R Mark III for resolution, or even the A7S Mark III might get that feature. So I think what they're doing is they're segmenting their market. Obviously, sports photographers, wildlife photographers probably don't need the 4K 60p as much. So that's probably something they're saving for their A7S line. So I am predicting that. What's really strange, I don't know if it's been confirmed completely, even though I saw it on the B&H website, everyone was saying that S-Log was not going to be included in the camera. Again, I don't use S-Log much at all, but I know a lot of people are disheartened by that. It's weird too because the people that are frustrated, they're not the target audience for the camera, and they're more than likely not going to be able to buy it because it's really expensive. So if it's out of your price range, it's out of your price reach, I think you should just rest assured that Sony has another camera up its sleeve, and it's probably going to address some of the things that you personally want. But as a sports shooter, this is really overkill in terms of just horsepower that it's going to provide. Touch interface, I don't think they really revamped the touch interface for the 6500. I don't quite know. They didn't really mention it much, but I think it's about the same. So that's kind of what I was predicting. I was really hoping they would advance the touchscreen and make it more usable, but I don't think it is. With that said, also the menu system is the 6500 style menu. And speaking about menu, there were some added things with the actual. You can kind of tweak the autofocusing a little bit more, which I think is good. So that way photographers can get a little bit more out of their cameras. They did update the focus system. 693 focus points. I did mention they were going to update it. They didn't call it 4D Mark IV or whatever, 4D focus Mark II, but I think it's going to be a really phenomenal camera based on what people have shown. The question is how it's going to perform in low light. I've seen some kind of mixed commentary on it, and I think it's just the fact that you got to make sure you got the settings tuned correctly to what you want it for. Let's talk about lenses. They are releasing the 100 to 400 G Master along with this camera. Well, it's going to come out about a month or so out of it. I'm not very excited about that lens. I already own the 70-200 G Master, and the thing about the G Master is I also already own the 1.4x extender and the 2x extender. So with that package alone, I have a very versatile lens, but I also have a lens that can go up to 400 5.6, which the 100 to 400 is a 5.6 lens at the furthest length. So I already kind of have my bases covered. It feels like a redundant lens if you got the extenders. Now, if you wanted even more reach, I absolutely understand, because you can mount the 2x extender and get 800 millimeters at, I don't know, f8 or so. So that possibility is there for users who want that. But for me right now on my radar, the 100-400 G Master is not really enticing me. I think Sony really needs to look, because they're getting really serious about this sports area, because they just invested in a really solid camera. They really got to get a 300 2.8, 400 2.8, get those big primes set up and ready to go. And Sigma, if you're out there, please make a native E-mount for these and try to reverse engineer it as best as you can. Because my 120 to 300, I love it. It just doesn't work very well on my Sony cameras, and I would buy one in a heartbeat for the Sony E-mount system. Sell my other one for Canon and get one for E-mount. Conclusions and thoughts. So get this. There was a lot of folks who were very apprehensive about Sony making this release. They weren't sure. I know people on my video were commenting, how do you know they're going to release it, this, and that, or they're not going to release something, and hey, they just did. They went ahead and dropped the camera. Spec-wise, on paper, it's phenomenal for sports photographers. It's not targeting every individual out there. I'm pretty sure they did it with a good reason, but I am fairly certain their other camera models will have a similar sensor tech to it. They're just going to have to incorporate it into their other models. So you're going to see some additional benefits and features. And again, I just think it was just a matter of just restricting the features on this camera to just make it, this is your ultimate sports camera. But I am thinking really hard right now, because I am going to be selling a couple of my other cameras. I might sell the 1DC, I might sell the 5D Mark IV, it depends which one. And I've got a 7D Mark II I'm probably going to put up for sale to make up the cost for the actual camera. So it doesn't just mean that I have like money everywhere and I can just buy whatever I want. I have to sell something in order to get something else for this particular price. But I am very excited about it. I think when the lenses come in, this camera will definitely come to life. But in the meantime, this is the de facto Sony camera for sports shooters. And if it is exactly what they claim it to be, and when it comes out, and if it doesn't have any overheating issues when people test it, this is it. I think I'm doubling down on Sony, and I'm slowly moving away from Canon, because the technology in the Sony cameras is where it's at. And I don't care if people would call me a fanboy about it. It's not really that I'm a fanboy. I'd honestly go to any particular brand that's gonna do the job. But I think the problem is people have this very nostalgic feel for the Canon and Nikon cameras, which I still do with my Canon, but the technology is constantly changing and upgrading at a much faster rate with Sony cameras. And so if you want the very best tech, Sony is going to be at the forefront of that. And if that's not your thing and you want to stick with the DSLR, stick with it. But I want to stay at the bleeding edge, and I'm really excited about what Sony's going to do. And that's why I think that's the way I'm going to go. So I'm very, very close to selling possibly all my Canon gear, but I'm going to probably let you know when that happens. Folks, that's all I got for you in this video. If you want to catch another video from me, click somewhere over here. If you haven't subscribed to my channel already, go ahead and click somewhere up here. And in the comment section below, or even in this little survey, let me know, are you going to buy this camera or not? Is it too expensive? What are your thoughts on it? I'd love to hear what you have to say. And with that said, I'm your host, Delwin Camera Guy, and I'll catch you on the next video.